Welcome to Love and Lightning. First comes love, and then comes lightning. I'm your host, Nicole Pelham. Welcome to a soul charged journey where heart meets power and is transformed in strikes of lightning. All waters lead to the same place, love, and in an ever expanding universe, stretching and unfolding, sending out waves of love and light, you are not a small part. You are an outsized part of the universe's plan. Here on Love and Lightning, we explore the intersection of spirituality, science, politics, religion, and the one thing we're all searching for, love and acceptance. The kind that reminds us that the universe made us perfectly and that you are in this moment exactly where you're meant to be. Get ready to be inspired with hope for the future, strengthen your path, and bolts of lightning to awaken your soul. Welcome to Love and Lightning. Let's get started. Oh my gosh, welcome, wonderful beings. Hey, first, way to anchor in the light last month. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That was some nice stuff. Way to go. And then the start of this month, wonderful start. Way to go. Collective action is a real thing. And especially as we talk about the collective and the qubits pointing us towards a collective future that we all want. That is just such a great example of how it works in the 3D when we all just are like, hey, like we don't want that. And I have a couple other examples of that throughout the episode today. So I'm super excited about that. But first of all, snaps all around. I was a little worried during the summer. It felt kind of like we were, in the middle of a saga. So those three-part sagas, like we were in Empire Strikes Back or like in the middle of the Hunger Games or something. Everybody was so depressed and sad. But then they just realized that like being here on earth takes work, just like our relationships take work and our weight takes work and our health takes work. Maintaining our society does take a constant level of work from us, and just the realization that we all have to put in a little bit of effort, I think, is what is all happening right now. But great job all around. So I'm Nicole Pelham. Welcome to Love and Lighting on Transformation Talk Radio or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's show would be considered pure blasphemy from the standpoint of my upbringing as Jehovah's Witness, as most people's upbringing with religion, to say anything close to what we are saying today, which is that you are God, a fractal of God down here on earth. For some people, that is absolutely unacceptable. And for other people, that is the truth that they've lived with their whole life. That they, when Jesus said that he came down here, they think that we all were just a little piece of God, just like Jesus. So it's just different strokes, but I definitely was like, man, this is a total blasphemous episode. Like people will be like, what? How dare you? And I grew up in the 80s where people claiming they were God were crazy people. That got you committed. Like you claiming you're God, people are like, yeah, we had to commit them. So it's just crazy to be in 2025 when this isn't even, I mean, this is definitely not a mainstream thought, but the thought that we are God is not a singular thought. I'm not even close to the first person to say it. You may have even heard people say it today. It's something that we are becoming more and more aware of as we just go through life and existence. And as we build upon that with these amazing devices that you're watching me on, like the internet, people like to poo poo these things, but I think the Great Awakening will have a very hard time happening without the collective ability to look at history and see around the world and see, hey, that's not working there. Does it actually work at all? But that is working there, and there. Let's try that here. So I think that's something that goes with the Great Awakening is, our wonderful technology, which we've talked a little bit about. But before we get to that, it's of course time for our good news clip of the day. You are the helper. See the helper, be the helper. You guys are the adults now. We're the adults. So we need to be the ones out there helping. I've been seeing so many examples of helpers online, in person, people who are doing fostering of like I watch somebody who fosters squirrels. I watch some people in Texas that foster dogs. So Texas has a lot of kill shelters. I watch people, lots of helpers who are taking care of nature, especially monarch butterflies, as just hobbies. They have like little areas in their house where they go outside and they collect all the little caterpillars, and they keep them safe and feed them so that they are taken care of, and then release them so that they get a better chance at life. So there's just so many ways that people are being helpers, so there's tons of ways, of even small ways or big ways, that you can be a helper. So maybe we'll inspire you today with some of these good news clips. Sierra, how are you doing today?
I am good. How are you?
I am fantastic. Oh, such a beautiful day here. Is it pretty in Oregon?
It is. It's nice. It's a little chilly, but I'm happy the sun's out.
I heard it's going to be a cold but dry winter. So I'm very interested to see how that works because those are so pretty. The stars are pretty. It's great stargazing, but you need like several layers. Gets pretty cold. Not, of course, again, not. I have a friend from the West East Coast, not East Coast cold, but West Coast cold.
I will definitely
Hey,
need
guess
my
what?
layers.
Oh yeah, and they should. There's a bunch of meteor showers that like almost every month there's a meteor shower. If you're a stargazer, there's lots of opportunities to see fireballs during the winter time if you can brave the cold. So, can you go ahead and play today's good news clip? We have two of them today. One is from Earthly Goodness.
Uh,
What if the world is turning a corner? In Kenya, a women led startup is turning plastic waste into building bricks that are stronger than concrete. They're recycling up to 500 kilos of trash every single day to do it. In Sri Lanka, over 300,000 landmines have just been cleared. This allows more than 280,000 people to safely return home, some for the first time in decades. Meanwhile, engineers in the US just blasted a hemp wall with one on 700-degree fire for a full hour. The other side didn't even get warm. It could be the future of fire-resistant homes. Over in India, scientists have developed a vaccine to protect baby elephants from a deadly virus. This virus has been wiping them out in zoos in the wild for years. And in Taiwan, researchers may have cracked the code for baldness. They have a new serum that brought hair back to life in lab tests in just 20 days. The headlines won't show it, but progress is happening everywhere. If you needed that reminder, follow @earthlygoodness.
Oh, that one's wonderful. It talks about hemp in there, and I just was talking about that on one of my forums because there is a bill where they're trying to take legal hemp out of the Farm Act. So just making sure that we keep that. It's a material that has a lot more weight uses for it than we are currently using it for. And I think it's going to be one of those materials that really guides us to the future. So if you hear about that or see that, make sure that you comment and let them know that we definitely want to continue to have hemp available. Hemp lotion is wonderful. I use hemp for like necklaces and things like that. So I don't know if you use any hemp products yourself, Sierra.
no, but I've heard great things.
The lotion is the first thing that I tried. There's like that lotion at all the massage places that says hemp on it, and that was the first thing that I tried and was like, oh, I do really like this lotion. Gateways.
I know I see it everywhere. I need to start.
I've really gotten into lotions just this last couple years. I didn't think they were very healthy, so I was not having a hard time with them. But now there are a lot of lotions where they don't have parabens in them, they don't have fragrances. But I did hear you're not supposed to get fragrance free because fragrance free they add something to it to kill the fragrances, and some people are allergic to the fragrance free thing. So they said if you're allergic to fragrance free, you just have to like get something that's a fragrance you can accept because fragrance free is bad. And we get fragrance free stuff from my daycare, so I was like, oh, good to know. Hey, can
Interesting.
you play the? I know, right? I was like, man, there's just so many. We just need to get to the point where people make products that are good for other people, and at the same time realizing that sometimes people make products. When they first made plastic, I remember how excited they were about it. It's great. It's gonna last for 1,000 years, and a few years later, people were like, "But do we want plastic from a ketchup bottle to last for 1,000 years?" But by then, it was too late. The wonders of plastic had come out. So sometimes we do things without thinking about them, but there are sometimes people doing things with knowing that they're not great for us. Can you play our second good news clip? This was from Sam Bentley.
Of course, here it comes.
Here's some good news from October that you might have missed. For the first time, Huntington's disease was successfully treated with a groundbreaking gene therapy, giving patients hope for far longer, healthier lives. Green sea turtles are no longer classed as endangered after decades of conservation, from protecting nesting beaches to reducing bycatch. A high school in Maine introduced detention hikes, where students walk local trails as an alternative to being isolated in a room, and the initiative is already showing promising results. Canada's first first ever whale sanctuary got approved in Nova Scotia, moving one step closer to creating a safe home for retired captive whales. The world's first upcycled skyscraper in Sydney was named an Earthshot Prize finalist for reusing most of its original structure and saving over 12,000 tonnes of carbon by avoiding demolition. Ireland made its basic income programme for artists permanent, supporting 2,000 creatives with €1,300 a month after a pilot showed major cultural and economic benefits. Over a quarter of schools in England are turning their grey playgrounds into green spaces to help give students better access to nature. And England passed a new renters' rights law that gives tenants the legal right to have pets, a big win for rescue animals and keeping families and pets together. Tap like to keep the good news on your feed and share this with a friend who may need to hear some good news.
That one has just so many good news. I like literally every time I listen to that one, I'm like, oh, what about that? What about that? What about that? Any good news you've heard recently, Sierra?
I'm very excited and happy about the same-sex marriage not being overturned because that was a huge thing last Friday and hearing about it this week. So,
It's one of those times like I was speaking about earlier where it is just a collective action time. And I remember saying that when being a study of history, I was like, hey, you guys know that like we'll have to keep fighting for this. Like I know it seems like yay and it's great right now, but the turn of time in history, it comes back real fast, and we didn't even make it 15 years before we were fighting for that again. And so that we have to keep fighting for those things is just part of society. As society grows, they do show that we are definitely like having a change and that we are becoming more empathetic, more loving, more kind, more wonderful society. But that is such a gradual increment thing. And then of course you have backlashes like what we're dealing with right now. So that's wonderful. We had a thing here too with almost the same well, not the same thing, but we had a issue with the forests here. We had voted in Dave Upton Grove. He promised he's going to protect care of the forest, and then last month we start hearing that he's going to put a bunch of stuff up for sale. And so I guess I called. A bunch of other people must have called because today I heard that they've taken a bunch of the timber off the market and a bunch of areas they're not going to be selling. They're still selling a few, but they were really happy with the amount that he decided not to sell. So just how collective action works and how not just believing and saying I want something, but then you have to actually take the step. I didn't just go, oh, blah blah blah. I knew that I had voted for Dave Upton Grove. I specifically said that when I called and was like, hey, the forest companies are going to have to wait for the trees to grow again before they can cut them. And that's just the way it is. And she laughed and then she gave the message and I was like so excited. So how that collective action worked, how many people, I always remind people that when you call and stuff like that, they get that one phone call, but that's someone who had the time out of the day to do that. They know that that person represents thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who did not have the time, who did not have the ability to call. So just remembering if you are one of those people that has the time, even if it's just every once in a while, how important your collective action can be for changing things. With that, we're going to take our first break. Today, again, is a episode about how you are God. Little g God, but definitely God, and all the reasons behind that. With that, we'll be back on Transformation Talk Radio with Love and Lightning. I'm Nicole. See you soon. Welcome back, wonderful beings, little pieces of God scattered purposely across time and space. I'm Nicole. This is Love and Lightning on Transformation Talk Radio. And right off the bat, we have a video for you guys. Alan Walker, Sarah, can you play this video on how Alan Walker explains why he believes that we're God?
of course, here it comes.
Suppose you're God. Suppose you have all time, all eternity, and all power at your disposal. You were given the power to dream any dream you wanted to dream every night. What would you do? Naturally, you could dream any span of time. You could dream 75 years of time in one night, 100 years of time in one night, 1,000 years of time in one night. And it could be anything you wanted. You make up your mind before you went to sleep, tonight I'm going to dream of so-and-so. Well, naturally, you would start out by fulfilling all your wishes. You would have all the pleasures you could imagine, the most marvelous meals, the most entrancing love affairs, the most romantic journeys. You could listen to music such as no mortal has heard and see landscapes beyond our wildest dreams. and for several nights. Oh, maybe for a whole month of nights. You would go on that way, having a wonderful time. But then after a while, you'd begin to think, well, I've seen quite a bit. Let's spice it up. Let's have a little adventure. And therefore, you would dream of yourself being threatened by all sorts of dangers. You would rescue princesses from dragons. You would perhaps engage in notable battles. You would be a hero. And then, as time went on, you would dare yourself to do more and more outrageous things. And at some point in the game, you would say, tonight I am going to dream in such a way that I don't know that I'm dreaming, so that you would take the experience of the dream for complete reality. And what a shock when you woke up. And you really scare yourself. And then, on successive nights, you might dare yourself to experience the most extraordinary things just for the contrast when you woke up. You could, for example, dream yourself in situations of extreme poverty, disease, agony. You could, as it were, work on the vibration of suffering to its most intense point, and then suddenly, whoop, wake up and find it was after all nothing but a dream and everything perfectly okay. And you would say, wow, man, that was a gas. Well, how do you know that that's not what you're doing already? You sitting there with all your problems, with all your whole complicated life situation, listening to me, it may just be the very dream you decided to get into. If you like it, crazy. If you don't like it, what fun it'll be when you wake up.
Oh man, side note, we talked about lucid dreaming a couple episodes ago, and that's, what lucid dreaming talks about is how they're able to control their dreams and move their dreams and how fun that is because that's means that they're in control of their life. They're doing stuff all day. Like when during daytime they're doing daytime stuff, and during night they're doing extraordinary stuff in their dreams. So that's why lucid dreaming is really fun to practice if it's something that you are interested in. And we talked about that a couple episodes ago about and how to get into that. So you can go back and look at that episode. That's also he talks about like how great it is to wake up. That's also why we watch scary movies. It's one of the reasons we watch shows where we are seeing something that we don't actually want to happen to us. We're experiencing something that relieves us and gets us our minds to experience something that we don't actually have to do. That's what they talk about with one of these tip videos I watch at YouTubers, and she talks about that with our BLs because she likes really dark BLs. And I was like, oh, interesting. She's like, because I have a wonderful, steady man at home, so I can dabble in these things without them being something like bad for me. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting because I don't usually watch dark ones. I'm like, no, there's plenty of darkness in the world. I want fluffy, cute stuff. So it's very interesting what you choose, but that's what you're here doing. And we talked about that in our cult episode too about choosing what we came down here to do and why we would do that. And that's all part of it, right? Is the dream that we were like, hey, I want to go down there and have this really cool dream. And so that's what Alan White Watts is talking about. I called him Walker. Is talking about that we came down here just to experience our cool dream, and then we're gonna wake up and be like, "Oh, that was horrible," or "Oh my God, please send me back. I want to go do it again." Um, the theory of what we got to is they talk about like you're sticking your finger into a pool, right? You're getting a little experience and then pulling it back out. They talked about that with pain, how we forget about pain too, and why we would choose to come back. So people are like, I'm never coming back here. Yeah, just like a video game that you throw the controller at the wall and then you pick that game back up a couple days later and play it anyway. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. You're never coming back here until you remember, well, actually, it was pretty fun. And I mean, that one thing was frustrating, but 90% of it was fun. So that's what you're coming down here for, is to do the fun stuff. And, yeah, you're going to get frustrated. Sometimes you're going to be grinding in the dungeon for a while and it's going to feel freaking awful. And you're like, why am I here? And then you have some fun time where you're doing really fun stuff. One of the things I talk about, of course, is falling in love with life. And God, of course, loves everything. So in all those situations, he is having fun. So recently, I was doing a whole bunch of yard work, moving 3 tons of gravel in my yard, and I was like, "This is so fun!" Like I was doing it like a ninja. I mean, like a strongman challenge. How fast can I get all this gravel distributed? And is it even? And would they count it? And I just enjoy having fun like that, and I feel like that is what I came down here to do. That maybe that I came down here just to have as much fun as possible. But a lot of people go, well, then why isn't, if we're God, why aren't we taking care of things? One of the things that has been pointed out to me a long time ago was we are basically the gods of our body, right? The Bible talks about it being our temple. Of many other books talk about how important the body is, that we take care of it. And how well are we taking care of it? Are we doing the things? Do we drink the water when the body is asking us for water? Do we go to the bathroom when the body is asking us to go to the bathroom? Are we eating the foods that we know our body needs? The apples, the fruits, the vegetables, or are we, eating what we want to eat and being like, suck it up, body? And so understanding that they were explaining that with God, that like the deserts and like, different areas, that God neglecting those areas? No, God loves those areas, but those areas, aren't what he's taking care of right now. Right now, he's taking care of the sleep mode. And when he wakes up from sleep mode, he'll take care of the drinking mode. And then he'll take care of the fire mode and all those other modes. I just thought that was such an interesting way to think about it, because we don't always take very good care of our body. And if we remember that not only is half of our body not ours, but if everything is a little living being, which is our homework for today, is Cells at Work. If you've never watched that, it's fantastic. It's on Netflix. It's a really great anime about the cells that work inside of our body. A couple of doctors have talked about how great it is and how well it explains how like the body works. So that's our homework for today. But understanding that we are in charge of this, and how well do we do it, and are we neglecting it, or are we, having it work out because we need it to work? Like, what are we doing with the body, and understanding that the universe is also doing stuff, that volcanoes explode not because it wants to kill all the people in the area, but because it needs to relieve that pressure, that the hurricanes are happening not because it's punishing people in those areas, it's because the ocean's really hot and it needs to relieve that heat so that all the creatures in the ocean don't die, so it creates these storms and hurricanes to release the heat. So the natural flow of the world and the body, and understanding that those aren't punishments anymore than they're punishments when we, like, you know clip nails off of our fingers that have gotten too long. We're not like mad at the nail, it's just too long and it needs to come off. So just these ideas about the body, we're just super interested to apply those to God, because God, of course, is in everything. And how well is he taking care of everything? And how well will we take care of everything? So it was just a super fun thought, to think about our bodies and how we are treating them if we are the God. Please, water. Yeah, later. Matter of fact, right now, my body's like, can you please drink water? And I'm like, well, we'll probably have a break in just a few minutes. Like, yep, 3 minutes and we'll have a break, and then you can drink some water. So just reminding the body that it does that. Um, and all of the creation is part of God's creation, right? So this is something that I've been talking with recently, is that we assign meaning, right, to things. We're humans, and we assign meaning, we assign colors, we assign numbers, so that we can explain the world, and how, everything is running off of that, because that's how we explain it to each other. But that means that everything is created by God, even the things that we may dislike, like uh, anger and fear and pain. Um, Demons, angels, like all things are created by God, or God created the system so that those things could happen. And he could have not have made those happen, so that those things are all mechanisms in place that he wants in place, so that his universe, or so that the universe works the way that they want it to. Oh, see, I've gotten into a hymns thing with my universe, I think, because I've been talking about Jehovah a lot recently, or to Jehovah a lot recently. And I've been doing the hymns thing, and I was like, I mean, I don't mind it. I'm not as hung up on the gender of God as I used to be when I was first breaking free from Jehovah's Witnesses. Now I'm like, I don't. If I was an all-knowing being and someone called me a guy or a girl, I wouldn't be upset either way. I'd be like, oh, thank you. So it's just super interesting, a different thought process about the way I think about that. That I used to be like very offended when I said he instead of they. I was like, oh, man, see, it's not a father and blah 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 blah. And now I'm just more like, it doesn't matter if it was a father, a mother, an uncle. It's the being that created, and I thank it for being there. So just a kind of a different way of thinking about it, and an easier way for my brain to deal with God as being, you know, a learning, growing, expanding being, as opposed to being a rigid set being. I mean, that for me, the Bible kind of shows that, because of course the New Testament shows that God decided to change things and do things a different way. So of course my mom would argue it's all part of the plan. But that is how, the flow, that God is growing and learning, just like the expanding universe. And as it touches and learns things and sends things out for experiences, it goes, oh, wow, that was interesting. That was actually a lot harder than I thought it was. Well, maybe we'll do that a little bit kinder next time. Um, that the judging of the big G, is different. The universal creator is, more let's see, how did I say this? That God knows and is including everything. So, you, me, even the dark things that we don't like are all part of the grand creation of the universe. And how important it is that we remember that the judging is an internal thing, and that that's not something that we need to necessarily do as humans, and instead observing them. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of break, and we're going to come back with Love and Lightning and talk more on how you may indeed be God. And if you are God, what does that mean? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Love and Lightning. I'm Nicole on Transformation Talk Radio. We've been discussing that you may be God. And if you are God, what should we do about it? And I've got a great clip by two of my favorite creators on Instagram and TikTok. You guys may recognize them. Sierra, can you play this clip for us?
Of course, here it comes.
Hey man,
Hey man.
how do you want to be remembered when you're gone?
Oh, I don't think it really matters.
What do you mean? It's the only thing that matters.
Well, I don't know. Everything gets forgotten eventually. So you just have to focus on right now.
Yeah, focus on making an impact which you'll be remembered by.
But that's selfish. We're not here now just so people 100 years from now will think we're cool. We're here now just to be here now.
No, that's selfish. We have to think about people that will come after us so we can leave the world better for them.
No, that's what I'm saying. We have to focus on the now and try our best to make the world a kinder, better place today, regardless of if we'll be remembered.
It's not about being remembered, it's about knowing that what you do matters. That even though we don't last forever, what we do here branches out, changing the world forever.
That even though we might be gone, the world is a better place because we've been in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love these guys. I love their videos. It's just so relaxing. They have a little book that's out. It's super cute. But they're one of the creators that just like, they just ask some of the bigger questions and then just make you remember that it honestly it doesn't matter. Their clips I just feel like that. It's just like there's big things out there. They're wonderful. But in the end, what really matters is just being here now and what you're doing right now. And of course, I have been talking about, and a couple of the creators I've been following, talk about following your greatest joy is the here now, and how that smooths out and makes that path very easy for you, especially if that here following the greatest joy is tied to the inner work of getting to your heart chakra of working through your fears, working through your selfishness, so that you can get to the point where you realize that we, as me and Sarah were talking about in the break, are interconnected. We're all part of the same whole. One of my favorite little Adventure Time statements is everything big is the same small, and everything small is the same big, and how how interconnected everything is, from our inner working of our body to the massive systems that are in charge of the world, and how those breakdowns affect everything down to the smallest detail, and how we're in charge of that. Humans are really the species in charge of that here on Earth, because we are the gods here on Earth, the little pieces that he sent down here to experience himself. Um, we're talking about the qubits and how the qubits and the God particles, they have to get everything out of the room for them to be free to act like themselves, and how that's what it is for us. That if God's here, we're not free to really explore things because we know we were God. And we would, we wouldn't have the emotions or the thoughts to really explore the world the way we would when we know that something's ours. People, we had a friend who lives not far from here, and we live on the water, and he's born there his whole life. And my sister goes, "Oh yeah, well, do you have a view of the water from your room?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know." And he was like 17, and he had never looked. And he got home and came back the next day. He goes, "Oh yeah, I can see the water from my room." And it was such a normal thing for him that he didn't appreciate it, he didn't think about it. It was just part of everyday life, and how that's why God has to send us down here to forget, because otherwise we wouldn't appreciate all the things. Like, yeah, maybe we'll be like, yeah, 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 a few times, but it's not the wonder that happens of a child who comes down to the earth who's forgotten, right? It's not the wonder of us going through this amazing experience the ups and downs of it. It's not the same thing as if we, know what's going to happen. It's almost the same thing as being the director watching a movie that you made, as opposed to being an audience member playing it and watching that. We talk about, of course, gaining control of that. How much control you want to have of that, and the balance of that, so that you're still having fun down here, so that you're still, you're still having plot twists that surprise you. You're still having magical moments, and you're not so in control of everything here that it's not a magical thing. And that's why the forgetting is, so that it can be more of a magical thing, so that it can be, you can explore it more, so that it can be more wonderful and more magical. Uh, Look, I'm like totally like, where are you? um, and how important it is to get better and better with every generation, which is what this video talks about. Not just for the next generation, but for you, because everybody is you. I mean, that's a selfish thought, right? But that is also a reason to take care of other people, is that everybody is you. And so if you're thinking about it that way, then that makes you treat other people with a little bit of extra kindness, maybe for a selfish reason, but also for a reason that allows it all to go well, right? The reason we take care of our body is because our body like is important for our life. And that is what allows us to do the things that we need to do for our body, even if we don't want to, even if we're tired, even if we're, we're sleepy, even if we don't want to do something, we can still go, okay, I need to do this because it's better for my body. I need to eat because it's better for my body. I need to drink water because it's better for my body. I need to go for this walk because it's better for my body. And those abilities to step out and make yourself do those things. And that is the principle of being here, and not just like go with the flow. The Bible talks about, not being perfect, as far as like me and my mom were just discussing this with Jesus, as far as Jesus, a perfect example, but not a perfect man, and how, he was on earth to like learn and do the experiences of earth, and then bring that back up to heaven and say, hey, yeah, this is like what the experience is on earth. And this is what they're doing with Jehovah's Witnesses. We believe that that was also why we were going to be here, was that they needed 144,000 people who had been earthlings to judge earthlings, because the experience of being here on earth would not be something that angels or God would understand, because they couldn't be down here. Because they once they were down here, they would have all of their abilities and powers. They wouldn't be humans. Supernatural had a lot of the angels walking upon the earth. Supernatural had their angels were kind of jerks. They were not the nicest angels, but they definitely were here walking on the earth, and that their experience was very different because they were not humans. Even if they could die here, it was not the same experience as being a human who was born here and went through all the experiences. And Jehovah's Witnesses believe that that was something that would allow you to better judge other humans and be kinder in the aftermath of Armageddon and all that fun stuff. We've talked a little bit about that before, but that really gets us in the weeds. Jehovah's Witnesses, which we do not need to get into. Um, Before I was coming on here, I heard a really interesting discussion, which kind of ties into what we're talking about, which is a parable about a man who goes fishing. And this man he's a park ranger and he's a conservationist, so he really loves nature. And he's out here for a catch and release. He's not planning to like eat the fish. And so the first fish he's out there fishing for a while, and the first fish he catches is this really beautiful endangered fish. And so he already knew he wasn't there to eat them anyway. He's just there to fish and catch them, which I have to tell you, the science is saying to stop doing that. That the fish do not survive catch and release, that they're bleeding and stressed, and other fish usually eat them or they die. So catch and release is not a real thing. But anyway, for the sake of the story, he was catching releases. So he puts the fish back, and the fish, instead of just swimming off and leaving, it swims to the shore and gets stuck, like a panic. And so he goes to shore and he gets the fish and he puts the fish back in the water. And the fish again panics and gets stuck on the shore again. And he picks it up and panics. And he does this for a while. And then he thinks maybe it's panicky. So he like soothes it and calms the fish and then lets it go. And it again rams itself on shore. And so he spends all this time trying to keep this fish, from killing itself, from beaching itself on the shore. He's swimming back and forth to the other side, saving the fish. And he's getting thirsty and tired, and noon rolls around, and then nighttime rolls around. Excuse me. And he starts thinking, is this fish ever going to die? Am I going to die taking care of this fish? Like, is this a useless endeavor? Should I keep doing this? And this, eventually it becomes midnight, the moon is out there, it's shining on the fish, and he says, "Hey, I can't help you anymore. Like I just have to let you just die." But he doesn't leave, he just stays there and watches the fish and continues to ask himself the question of whether or not he should continue to save the fish. And he just pick it up and throw it back in maybe one more time. And it was just the idea that in our life, if we are questioning our motives, why we're doing things, what we're doing things for, if efforts are futile, because honestly life is futile, we are all going to die, and then eventually, like the sun is gonna explode and like eat the whole solar system. Maybe mankind has left earth by then, but all of this is very futile, and the idea of how you deal with that in life and what it motivates you to continue to be full go forward. And of course, on the show, what we're motivating you with is love and light. That love and light be your guiding force for you to go forward and for you to find the things in life that lead you to love and light, to find the things in nature that lead you to love and light, the things in society that lead you to love and light, things in science that lead you to love and light, things within yourself that lead you back to love and light. So that in your moments as you're going through life, love is the thing that's leading you. This is important not just for your now, but for any future now where maybe you are less yourself. One of the things people talk about with spiritual awakening is how you become less and less yourself. And that guiding principle of love and light keeps you focused on yourself and what you wanted. So that's what what we're talking about is bringing all of that into the love and light and making sure that you're focused on that, so that it doesn't matter whether or not you are the god or you're just a human or you're a flickering piece of dust. If love and light is your focus, then that flickering piece of dust is going to bring more light into the world. With that, we're going to take our another break. This is Nicole Pelham on Love and Lightning Transformation Talk Radio, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I thought this was our my last episode, and then after I wrote it, I was counting it, and I actually have two more episodes, which I'm super excited for because I really wanted to do one about parenting and childcare. Things are shifting quite a bit with childcare. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it that we're building a second childcare center over in Auburn area, and so we have one over in the Bothell area, and we've been running that for about 30 years. And as we prepared for opening the second one, I've spent a lot of time at other daycare centers and have been a little disappointed that other daycare centers, don't have toys or aren't clean or aren't providing like basic things like lunches for the kids. And so I definitely want to do an episode both on, what parents, as we're getting to the spiritual realm, like, parenting and how that has changed, gentle parenting and things like that. But also about, what to look for as you're raising your children, where you want to put them, what type of things. Because, yeah, I think parents need a little guidance. If a daycare center says they don't tell your kid no, do not put your kid there. No is a word children must learn to hear. You need to have a place that teaches your children. Just things like that where I was like, wait, daycares aren't teaching kids the word no? I can think of at least two times when you really need to know no. When a police officer says it and when your partner says it. Both those times, you need to understand what no means. And so just, things like that where it's like maybe parents don't understand and, there is so much information. And so I'll just become one more of, the voices hopefully singing into the void, and hopefully a few people will hear it and be like, oh, I am doing a great job. And we just need to, relax and enjoy this parenting thing like you're supposed to enjoy everything. So I do want to do an episode of that. The episode is called, though, Your Kid's an Ass. The first step is admitting there's a problem, but the problem is modeling. And that's what the whole book talks about, is how modeling is the issue with either your modeling, which, maybe it's your modeling. Maybe you should take a look at it. I was listening to a parent who he was doing all the right stuff, but he was like, I'm so frustrated all the time. And I was like, ooh, your kids know that. They know you're frustrated all the time. Like, we read people's body language and then kids are way better at it than adults. So you do need to make sure that you're doing things in a kind way. I just posted a video where moms were serving food to their kids meanly, and the kids' faces It's not that they're not getting fed, they're getting food, but she slaps the plate down and slaps the food down, and the kids are either worried about her or nervous. Mom, what's wrong? Don't slap my stuff down. Mom, are you okay? And just how that energy is in there. And your kids are noticing not just those extreme emotions, but those subliminal ones, those really slow ones that we don't realize. That's why I always treat my children at my daycare as if they're, I mean, not little adults, but that they are of equal intelligence to me. And I always talk to them, even the little kids at that level, like, hey, I said not to do that. And the reason I said not to do that is because you'll fall off the chair. See, now you fell off the chair and you bumped your head and now you're crying and we have to put a towel on. And I just made sure to talk to them like that so that they, we're getting the whole thing. That they for understanding that I was respecting them as another being. And now all the science is coming in that we should be doing that. So talking about modeling, both of you, and of course the all important modeling that was preached and shoved into me as your witnesses is the modeling of outside examples. This is why we weren't supposed to have worldly friends or watch worldly shows, listen to worldly music, because all of that has an influence on you. They talk about the 5 people who you're closest to are influencing your personality, and that includes 100% your social medias. So making sure that your social medias, your TVs, whatever you're watching is an influence that you want on yourself. We talked a little bit about that before, but just making sure that like your kids really are watching stars that you want them to act like, that the cartoon characters you want them to be like, yeah, I'd love it if my kid acted like Peppa Pig. If you don't want your kid to act like Peppa Pig, you should not have her watch Peppa Pig. You should really think about what you're having your kids watch. Not that there's anything wrong with Peppa Pig. I'm just upset at Peppa Pig for like 2 episodes. I've never actually watched Peppa Pig. But the same thing with anything. It's just what are they watching? What influence are they getting? I know that my mom would oftentimes be sitting with us in the room watching the cartoons with us while she was doing other stuff. I mean, this is the 90s, different than 2000s. But she would, ask us questions about things like people's behavior. Like, oh, wow, do you think that was very nice of that character? Wow, what did you think about that? And so she'd make us think a little bit more. Now, that does make it to where it is hard to shut off your brain when you're watching TV. And I've had a couple girlfriends be like, dang, can we just watch the show without you dissecting it? Sorry, it's built in. So there is a balance in there, but just making sure that your kids and what you are understanding that what they're watching is going to have an effect on them, just like you with your social media, you with any of your things. I know when I was watching, I love NPR. When I'm listening to NPR a lot, especially during the early 2000s, it was pretty combative on their NPR, and I was, in a debating mode. I talked to people like I was debating, and now I've noticed that since I'm in podcast mode and I'm doing podcasts and writing podcasts in my head, I'm in podcast mode sometimes and just podcasting people to death. And I will pause and be like, I'm so sorry. I do a podcast. So I've been talking for like a minute, 2 minutes. I apologies. I have to talk for 13 minutes nonstop for this podcast sometimes. I get on little rolls. So just remembering that those things are influencing you and they are having an effect on how you are, out in the world. When I was really into sports, it was very cultish. You got your teams and your tribe, and we hate that team, and we're gonna boo that team. And just being careful that some of that is super fun. I really enjoyed booing people when they came down the Hawks Alley. It was like one of those highlights. The people would walk down and we were over there, playing, flip cup and stuff, and boo! And it was fun. It was super fun. So just making sure that what you're doing, is fun for them, fun for other people, while still, we can still have a lot of fun, guys. So, just doing those things were things that I recommend for you. But that's the kids episode, is just reminding us about who we're listening to, what we're listening to, and remembering that kids are soaking all of that up 10 times more than we are, especially in those first 5 years. That is their key development time. With the thought that this was my last show, I was also just going to do a recap of all of my shows and movies I've given for homework, but instead, we're going to talk about cells at work, which I talked about a little bit earlier. It's super cute. There's a white blood cell and a red blood cell, and they keep bumping into each other, fighting viruses. I think the character gets pregnant. It's a really good series. It like pretty much takes each season, I think, is one human body or something, and it takes you through that whole like person's life and like different events that happen to them. So it's just one of those really good animes, and it really explains how the human body works. I mean, it has blood in it and gore in it a little bit, not a lot for an anime, but a little bit because it is the human body. But I think it is a kids anime. I don't remember it having like anything that was like racy or anything like that in it. So you can check that one out. There, it's on Netflix and on Crunchyroll. So Cells at Work is a wonderful, wonderful anime to think about like how the body works and how we're going to take care of it. Whenever I think about my body in that way, about there being little characters, I do take a little bit more care of them. You know, I make sure I drink water and sleep a little better and eat a little bit better so that they're all, they all have the nutrients and they're not down in there starving with like grand deserts where I'm not taking care of them. So it's just one of those wonderful ways to think about your body as all these little creatures, especially remembering that half of them are not us, which is cool and creepy. Oh my gosh, Sierra, thank you so much for all your great work today. I had a I had a great time. Thank you. Please join us again every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And until then, know that the universe loves you and you're exactly where you're meant to be. Ask the universe, listen to the spirits, let the God particles and qubits guide your way towards your highest and best timeline. With that, love and lightning out. Thank you for listening to Love and Lightning with Nicole. Catch us every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. If today lit something inside you, subscribe, share, or like, and spread the spark. Ready to be inspired? Take next steps? Check us out at loveandlightning.com. Check out my books, music, upcoming events, and let's stay connected on my social media. You can find me at Bad Vegan Nikki or lovealightning.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.